You know that feeling of panic that hits when someone invites you out? That tightness in your chest, the urge to make up any excuse to stay home? It's not shyness, it's not laziness. It's something much deeper and more dangerous. Millions of children of narcissistic parents develop an invisible prison called silent agoraphobia. They learn from a young age that the outside world is dangerous, unpredictable, full of people who will judge them, reject them, or attack them emotionally. Dr. Gabor Maté revolutionized our understanding of how childhood trauma shapes our nervous system, and today you're going to discover how narcissistic parents plant the seeds of fear that keep you trapped inside your home. This isn't just another conversation about social anxiety. It's about understanding why your body goes into panic just thinking about going out, why your mind invents 1,000 excuses to avoid social events, why you feel safer in isolation than in the real world. If you grew up hearing phrases like, "You're too sensitive," "Nobody's going to like you like that," or "The world out there is cruel," your brain learned a devastating lesson. Staying hidden means survival. But today, that changes. You're going to understand what really happened to you, why it's not your fault, and most importantly, how to break these invisible chains that have bound you for years. Get ready for a journey that will shake everything you believed about yourself. Imagine a 6-year-old child running happily to tell their mother about the drawing they made at school. The response? "What an ugly thing, look how clumsy you are. The other parents must be ashamed of their children when they see this." This is the exact moment when silent agoraphobia is born. It's not a single explosive traumatic event. It's a collection of small emotional deaths that happen every day, for years. Narcissistic parents are experts at destroying their children's trust in the outside world. They use seemingly protective phrases as emotional weapons. "Don't trust anyone," "People only want to use you," "You don't know how to take care of yourself." Dr. Gabor Maté explains that children need to feel safe to explore the world. But when their primary caregivers are sources of emotional insecurity, the child's brain develops a simple strategy: avoid any new or unpredictable situation. Your amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for detecting danger, becomes hyperactive. It learns that social interactions are minefields, that people are dangerous, that it's better to stay quiet, invisible, safe inside the house. The narcissist plants these seeds in various perverse ways. They constantly compare you to other children, always placing you as inferior. They criticize you in front of others, generating public shame. They punish you for trying to be independent, sending the clear message, "You need me to survive." You internalize every criticism, every comparison, every humiliation. Your brain develops the deep belief that you're not good enough for the outside world, that people will notice your flaws and reject you. And the cruelest part, the narcissistic parent then criticizes you for being antisocial or lazy, as if it were your choice to fear the world they themselves painted as threatening. By the way, tell me in the comments what city you're watching this from. I want to know where the brave people are who are willing to break this cycle. But here comes what nobody tells you about how this mental programming works. You know when you're about to leave the house and suddenly your heart races, your hands get sweaty, you feel short of breath, and a voice in your head screams, "Danger!" This isn't paranoia. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. Dr. Gabor Maté always says that trauma is not what happens to you, but what happens inside you because of what happened. And what happened inside you was a complete reprogramming of your internal alarm system. When you were a child, every time you tried to express yourself, explore, or simply be yourself, you received a violent emotional correction. Your narcissistic father or mother made you feel shame, fear, or anger. Your young and malleable brain absorbed the lesson, expression in danger. Now, decades later, every time you think about going out, socializing, or exposing yourself in any way, your nervous system triggers the same alarms. Your hypothalamus releases cortisol and adrenaline as if you were facing a lion in the savannah. But there's no lion. There's only the emotional memory of 1,000 small betrayals from your childhood. There's the echo of voices that convinced you that you're not safe in the world. The most insidious part is that this process happens at the subconscious level. You don't even realize you're being sabotaged by your own neurology. You just feel the result: paralysis, avoidance, the desperate need to stay hidden. Your rational mind even tries to argue, it's just lunch with friends, what harm could it do? But your limbic system, where your primitive emotions reside, is screaming, you're going to die if you leave here. And here's the worst part of all. You start to believe this is your personality, that you're naturally shy, naturally anxious, naturally antisocial. But you're not. You're naturally social, curious, and brave. These characteristics were just hijacked by a nervous system that was conditioned to terror. The narcissist stole more than your self-esteem. They stole your ability to trust the world and people. They transformed your natural response of curiosity into a conditioned response of fear. But there's something even more disturbing that happens when you finally understand this mechanism. If I stay home, nothing bad can happen. Indeed, this is the most seductive lie your traumatized brain tells you every day. And it's exactly this illusion of control that keeps you trapped in your own house. I'm going to tell you something that will shake you. Avoiding social situations doesn't protect you. Actually, it makes you even more vulnerable. Every time you cancel an appointment, every time you make up an excuse not to go out, you're reinforcing the belief that the world is too dangerous for you. Dr. Gabor Maté explains that children of narcissists develop what he calls a protective false self. It's a version of you that exists only to avoid pain. But this protection becomes a prison. Here's what really happens. When you avoid a social situation, your brain registers this as successful survival. You feel temporary relief, and this releases some dopamine. Your nervous system interprets, see, staying home was the right decision. But this relief is a trap. Because the next time a social opportunity arises, your fear will be even greater. Your brain will remember last time you avoided it and stayed safe. Now you need to avoid even more. It's a vicious cycle that feeds on its own fear. The more you avoid, the more you avoid. The more you hide, the more reasons you find to keep hiding. Your comfort zone becomes smaller and smaller until it's reduced to the four walls of your room. And the narcissist who programmed you, they would love to know they succeeded. That even from a distance, even without being present, they still control your life, that you internalized their criticism so deeply that now you're the one sabotaging yourself. The brutal truth is that you're not protecting yourself, you're punishing yourself, you're perpetuating the emotional abuse you suffered, except now you're the abuser. You deny yourself experiences, relationships, joys, personal growth. Your narcissistic father or mother taught you that you don't deserve to be in the world, and now you live as if that were true. But there's something they never told you about this mental programming, something that can change everything. I was 28 years old when I finally understood that I wasn't naturally antisocial. It was in a therapist's office, hearing my therapist explain something no one had ever told me. Your isolation isn't a choice. It's an automatic survival response. For years, I believed the narrative my family built about me. He's shy. He prefers to be alone. He doesn't like people. I even repeated these phrases myself, as if they were absolute truths about my personality. But when I started studying Dr. Gabor Maté's work on trauma and child development, everything made sense. I wasn't antisocial. I was traumatized. My nervous system had been conditioned to interpret human connection as a threat. I remember the exact moment of discovery. I was reading about how children exposed to constant criticism develop social hypervigilance, how they learn to detect signs of rejection before they even exist, how they prefer isolation to the possibility of being hurt again. Every word described my experience, the way I obsessively analyzed every social interaction, how I interpreted any silence as disapproval, how I preferred to be alone rather than risk being judged or rejected. It was both liberating and devastating. Liberating because I finally had a real explanation for my behavior. Devastating because I realized how many years of my life I had lost hiding from a danger that only existed in my mind. The most shocking thing was realizing how my narcissistic parents had shaped every aspect of my social personality. They didn't just criticize who I was. They taught me to criticize myself before anyone else could do it. They planted an inner voice that constantly whispered, "You're going to say something stupid. They're going to notice you're weird. It's better to stay quiet so you don't embarrass yourself." This voice became so familiar that I thought it was mine. But it wasn't. It was their voice, echoing in my head, controlling my life even when they weren't around. Dr. Gabor Maté always says that awareness is the first step to healing. And he was right. The moment I understood that my isolation was a symptom and not a characteristic, everything began to change. But the journey to break these invisible chains had barely begun. Did you know that your brain literally changes shape when you're raised by a narcissist? It's not a metaphor, it's pure neuroscience. And understanding this will completely change how you see your social problem. Gabor Maté, along with other trauma researchers, discovered something revolutionary. Children exposed to chronic emotional stress develop measurable neurological differences. Their amygdalas become overdeveloped, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking, becomes underdeveloped. In translation, you literally have a brain that was shaped to detect danger in places where no danger exists. Your amygdala fires alarms when you meet new people, when you need to speak in public, or even when someone invites you to a simple social event. But here comes the part nobody explains to you. This isn't permanent. The brain has something called neuroplasticity. This means that the same neural connections that were formed by trauma can be reformulated through reparative experiences. The problem is that most people don't know this. They think they're broken forever, that they were born this way, that there's no way to fix it. I believe that too. When you understand the science, everything changes. You realize that your fear of going out isn't a character flaw. It's a perfectly logical biological response to years of toxic conditioning. Your brain is doing exactly what it was trained to do, keep you safe through isolation. The difference between people who grew up in safe homes and people like you is stark. Healthy brains see social connection as a reward. They release oxytocin and dopamine when interacting with others. Traumatized brains like yours see social connection as a threat. They release cortisol and adrenaline. That's why what should be pleasurable becomes torturous. That's why you feel exhausted after social interactions. That's why you need to recover after leaving the house. Your nervous system is literally fighting against you. But Dr. Gabor Maté discovered something even more important. When you understand that this is neurobiology and not personality, you gain the power to change. You stop blaming yourself and start healing yourself. The first step is to stop fighting against your nervous system and start working with it. Stop forcing yourself into situations that terrorize you and start exposing yourself gradually with compassion and patience. Because there's a specific technique that can reprogram these neural connections. I'm going to teach you something that took me years to learn. How to hack your own nervous system to break silent agoraphobia. It's a technique based on Dr. Gabor Maté's principles of emotional regulation, and it literally saved my social life. First, you need to understand that forcing yourself to go out when you're panicking only reinforces the trauma. It's like trying to put out fire with gasoline. Your brain registers the experience as danger confirmation and becomes even more vigilant the next time. The technique I'm going to teach you is called gradual, compassionate exposure. It's different from everything you've tried because it works with your nervous system, not against it. Step 1. Fear mapping. Before any social exposure, you're going to make a list of social situations ordered by anxiety level, from 1 to 10. For example, talking to the doorman might be level 3, going to the supermarket might be level 5, going to a party might be level 9. Step 2. Neurogenic breathing technique. Before exposing yourself to any situation, you're going to do 5 minutes of this breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 6, hold empty for 2. This activates your parasympathetic system and tells your brain that you're safe. Step 3. Compassionate self-talk. Instead of criticizing yourself, "I'm a social failure," you're going to use phrases that Dr. Gabor Maté recommends. "My nervous system is protecting me based on past experiences. This is normal and can be healed." Step 4. Micro-dosed exposure. You start with level 1 or 2 situations. Stay only as long as you can without panicking. It could be 30 seconds. It could be 2 minutes. It doesn't matter. What matters is leaving before the panic, so your brain registers the experience as safe. Step 5. Self-celebration ritual. After each successful exposure, you celebrate. Literally, you tell yourself, "I did it. My brain is learning that the world can be safe." I used this technique for 6 months. I started being able to stay 30 seconds in the supermarket without having a panic attack. Today, I give lectures to hundreds of people. The change was gradual, but irreversible. The key is understanding that you're literally retraining neural circuits that were formed over years. This doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. But there's something even more powerful you can do. Preparou-se para continuar tradução até limite máximo. I'm getting close to the output limit, but I still have a lot more content to translate. The user said they'll tell me to continue when I reach the limit, so I should continue translating until I hit that point. Let me continue with the translation. The truth nobody wants to hear is this. You'll only completely break the cycle of silent agoraphobia when you stop running from the emotional pain that's at the root of the problem. And this pain has a first and last name: grief for the childhood you never had. Dr. Gabor Maté always talks about this. Children of narcissists need to mourn the death of a fantasy. The fantasy that someday their parents will recognize what they did. The fantasy that you can heal them by loving enough. The fantasy that the problem is with you, not them. When I finally cried, and I mean really cried, with sobs, anger and despair, for all the years I spent hiding from the world, something changed in my nervous system, as if a pressure valve had been opened. Because look, part of your agoraphobia isn't just fear of rejection, it's repressed anger. It's the inner child who is furious for being forced to hide, to diminish themselves, to disappear so as not to bother the narcissist. This anger needs to come out. It needs to be felt, processed, and released. Because as long as it's locked inside you, it will continue to sabotage you. It will continue whispering that you don't deserve to be in the world. The exercise of the letter that will never be sent. Write a letter to the narcissistic father or mother who shaped your fear. Not to send, never send it. It's for you. Say everything you always wanted to say. Use curse words if you want. Cry if you need to. Feel anger if it comes. Write about how they stole your trust in the world, how you feel about having lost years hiding, how you deserved protection, not destruction, how you're tired of carrying the shame they planted after writing. Burn the letter. Literally, and while it burns, say out loud, I am no longer a prisoner of your programming. Emotional reparenting. Every day, for at least 5 minutes, you're going to talk to your inner child, like the parent you always needed. Say things like, "You are worthy of love exactly as you are. The world has a place for you. You can trust good people. You deserve connection and joy." This might seem silly, but you're literally creating new neural connections. You're teaching your limbic system that emotional safety is possible. The process isn't linear. There are days you'll feel brave, others you'll want to hide. But every time you choose healing over fear, you're rewriting your neurological story. And then comes the most important part of all. There's a moment in your healing journey that will completely shock you. It's the day you're going to discover who you really are when you're not under the influence of trauma. And you might not even recognize that person. I remember exactly when it happened to me. I was in a casual conversation with friends, laughing at something genuinely funny, when I suddenly realized, wow, I'm naturally funny. Have I always been like this? The answer is yes, but it took me 30 years to find out. Children of narcissists spend so much time hiding, diminishing themselves and protecting themselves that they completely lose touch with their authentic personality. You don't even know anymore what you like, what you think, how you behave when you're truly relaxed. Dr. Gabor Maté calls this reconnecting with the true self. It's a process of emotional archaeology where you discover layers of your personality that were buried by trauma. Maybe you'll discover that you're naturally extroverted, but were forced to be quiet. Maybe you'll discover that you have a sharp sense of humor, but were taught that your jokes were inappropriate. Maybe you'll discover that you're affectionate and empathetic, but learned to hide it so you wouldn't be called too sensitive. Signs that you're reconnecting. You start having your own opinions about small things, what music to listen to, what food to order. You catch yourself laughing genuinely, not forced. You feel like sharing something interesting you learned. You disagree with someone without feeling panic. You express a need without apologizing excessively. The fear of authenticity. Here comes something that will scare you. When you start being authentic, some people might not like it. And this will activate all your rejection alarms. Your traumatized brain will scream, "See, I told you it was dangerous to be yourself." But here's the liberating truth. People who reject you for being authentic aren't your people. They're echoes of your narcissistic parents, trying to keep you small and controllable. The right people, those who will form your real connections, will love you exactly because of your authenticity. They'll feel safe to be authentic too. When you stop performing to please and start simply existing, something magical happens. You attract people who genuinely want you around. But there's one last thing I need to tell you. Today, you're at a crossroads. You can close this video and go back to your comfort zone, continuing to live as a prisoner of programming that isn't even yours. Or you can decide that today is the first day of your real life. Because I'm going to tell you a truth that hurts. Every day you spend hiding is a day you're giving as a gift to the narcissist who programmed you. It's a day you're saying, "You were right. I really don't deserve to be in the world." Dr. Gabor Maté always says that healing happens in relationship. You're not going to overcome silent agoraphobia alone in your room, watching videos about the subject. You're going to overcome it through real experiences, gradually, with compassion, but with courage. Your first step, today. Before you sleep tonight, you're going to do one simple thing. You're going to go out on the balcony, in the backyard, or in front of your house, and you're going to stay there for 5 minutes, just breathing and telling yourself, "I deserve to be in the world. I deserve connection. I deserve joy." No, it might seem silly, but you're sending a direct message to your nervous system. We're changing strategies. We're not going to hide anymore. Your new identity. Starting today, you're no longer a person with agoraphobia. You're a person in the process of healing. You're someone who survived unimaginable trauma and is still here, fighting for a better life. You're not lazy. You're not antisocial. You're not defective. You're a survivor of emotional abuse who is learning to trust the world again. If this video touched your heart, if you recognized yourself in this story, do me a favor. Don't let it be just another piece of content you consumed. Leave a comment telling me what your first step will be to break this cycle. Your journey back to the world won't be easy, but it will be worth every second of courage. Because on the other side of fear is the life you always deserved to live. You're not alone on this journey, and your true life is waiting for you to have the courage to live it. The world needs you exactly as you are.